citizen, same vision is for equal rights and justice for the people them. What's happening to this beautiful world that we're living in? World Citizen, lift up your voices.
Welcome.
Oh, you know
Welcome to another episode of the People-Powered Planet podcast. Each week we have terrific solutionaries as guests talking about not terrible problems of the world, but how to solve them. And today we have with us Beth Leeds. She's a global, local activist. I would call her a Glocalist. She's also a writer. She's an artist. Way back when she was 8 years old, back in 1949, she got a stop sign installed at a dangerous intersection. Now this was in Laguna Beach, and they had a lot of red tape. And somehow she cut through that red tape in record time. In less than 24 hours, she got that stop sign. So she's actually been responsible for instance, saving the local, very iconic Lifeguard Tower there in Laguna Beach. So whether she's being active locally to preserve a canyon, or nationally to write the National Ocean Protection Act, she actually wrote that in her kitchen, or acting globally to run with World Citizen #1 Garry Davis on the World Citizen Party. She's been a true change maker, and so therefore we are very pleased to have her on the People Powered Planet podcast. Welcome, Beth Leeds.
Oh, thank you. Aloha, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm one of Garry Davis's biggest fans, and I'll be telling you more about my experiences with Garry, and also with the politicians in Washington, my little beautiful little children's book that I've written, and other things. Whatever you want to know, just ask me the questions and I'll give you the answers and the solutions.
Excellent, excellent. Well, since you mentioned Garry, I guess you met Garry back in 1987. Why don't we start with telling us a little bit about how did you meet Garry? What were your first impressions of him, and how did that take off?
Well, I was attending the Third World Parliament Convention in Miami Beach at the Fontainebleau Hotel, and there were like 800 people there, and I was a guest speaker. I had given my talk about my global energy efficiency policy that I had written, and I guess Garry heard about that from someone there. He was looking for a vice presidential running mate and wanted a woman, and someone told him about me, and so they stood up on the stage, and someone said, well, Garry gave me a message. He would like Beth Leeds to be my running mate. And I was very surprised, and I said, well, I always do everything unanimously. So I asked everybody in the audience, there were like 800 people out there, I go, do you all agree with that? And everyone stood up and clapped and raised their hands, and that's how I became Garry's running mate. And then I talked with him over the payphone booth, because it was back in those days. And we had been talking almost daily after that. It was fun.
Well, now let me ask you this. Here Garry was a world citizen who one of his points was that the nation state systems is broken, that these are artificial boundaries. He called nation states a political fiction. Why would he be running for the president of a political fiction?
Well, I think, number one, I think he wanted the exposure for the World Party, and his exposure as the #1 world citizen. And that was a perfect platform for him, because of course, when he talked about solutions and about the world. And when they were talking about negative things that weren't, that were more corporate back then even. So he brought the world to the stage of the United States presidency. I thought that was great.
Great. Well, tell me where were some of the places that he was able to, he and you together were able to be on stage, or who were you able to reach in that campaign?
Well, I was never on stage with him. We talked about it. He sent me all of his platforms. I worked with him on writing a different kind of a thing, maybe putting in energy conservation, different things like that. There were more local to the United States, not the world. We were in, let's see, I think 12 or 13 states on the ballot. And basically, that's where I became friends with him. I met Garry several years later when he was in Los Angeles. And then I met him several times through you when I got in touch with you, Arthur.
Right. Now, did you get lots of publicity in those states that you were on the ballot? And getting on the ballot's a big thing. You had to have a lot of signatures and a lot of people supporting that. So tell us a little bit about how that got organized and what the impact was.
Well, the impact was really great because everyone knew who the candidates were at that time. So they're the stage was very large. It was at the beginning of the campaign. And so he brought in this new energy and everyone liked him. He's very likable. And a lot of the people that were running were more staid and following a scripted, what they were told to say, whereas Garry just kind of danced on the stage like he did with Danny Kaye. It was great.
Boy, that must have been a scene. Well, that's so reminiscent of what he's like in our film. I think everyone here has probably seen our movie, The World Is My Country, and gives you the rusty old key to break out of your chain. Don't forget to dance on the way out. And that's what he did in many ways. He opened the doors, he unlocked the keys to our creativity, and he helped inspire us to think outside the box. How did his
Well,
thinking affect you?
Arthur, there is no box. We don't think outside the box. That was the whole thing about Garry, is he came from a whole different place. But you were talking about dancing on the way out, and when I was with you all, when Garry did that little stage presentation and Strawberry Alarm Clock was there back like maybe 15 or 20 years ago, or maybe even longer, Garry and I actually are seen in the movie dancing his way out. We were dancing, it's kind of like a silhouette, but he and I danced to Strawberry Alarm Clock. They wrote a song for him.
Right. Strawberry Alarm Clock's a wonderful band that had the 60s hit Incense and Peppermint, and Randy created a song just for our movie, and you see that in the full version of our movie. It's not in the television version, but if you actually go to theworldismycountry.com, we'll go to the store of our theworldismycountry.com, and you can click to watch via Vimeo the full version.
He's
Pretty
a great
cool.
dancer.
It's so good that you got to enjoy Garry and his fun and love of this world. He wrote another book called Dear World, and it's sort of a love letter to the planet. And you seem to be like the kind of person who actually is in love with the planet. Tell me about your love of the planet and of trees.
Well, I was just on the front page of the Orange County Register last week for Valentine's Day because I put shiny red hearts on trees in Laguna that were actually slated to be cut down. It's really weird now. A lot of trees in different parts of the country are being slated to cut down. I don't know why, but we're saving the trees. I actually wrote the heritage tree ordinance for Laguna Beach in 1972 when they wanted to cut a lot of trees down then too. So I like to pin hearts on the trees that are slated for being cut down. I'm saving them.
Now, how does hearts on a tree keep the trees from being cut down?
Well, it's a little more involved than that. I do get, I don't call them petitions anymore. I call them declarations. And so I just get people to sign a declaration instead of begging the city council or whoever I'm trying to convince. I call it a declaration. I say, here's what we want. Not, can you give us what we want? And so that kind of works. A lot of people, I mean, I can get 1,000 signatures in a couple of days just by going to Main Beach Park, which I saved in 1973, and stand by the Lifeguard Tower in Laguna, which I saved in 1972 from being torn down. So actually, I'm just a protector is what I really am.
Well, I like your shifting of thinking, as Garry did, from
Good.
protesting and begging and pleading to the declaration. I remember Gary saying, you know, it's not called the petition for independence. It's not called the plea. We're not begging for independence. It was the Declaration of Independence. And right in there, it said, it is the right of the people to institute new government. And Gary had that sense of our right to institute things. I mean, you know, he said, you know, why are we running around begging and pleading these government leaders to make peace when we're the sovereigns? Every constitution says they derive their power from the will of the people. We're their boss. You know, we should be telling them what to do. And you sound like you've caught that spirit. It's a declaration. You're not begging them. You're declaring. You're the citizens.
Well, you know, he inspired me. And, you know, whenever I say I did something, a lot of times I was the instrument with groups and thousands of people behind me a lot of times. But I was a person that stood up and presented it or something. But basically, I was just a figurehead, the person standing up. I dared to stand up. I dared to go to Washington. I dared to do all these things because years ago, my mother said, I go, I don't know. I don't think I can do that. My mother said, you can do it, Beth. And that's my inspiration, those words. And that's what I wanted to give to the people who are watching and listening as well. I want to tell you, you can do it. You can do it because we all need to stand up when we see something. And it's not that big of a deal if you're in a room and there's a lot of people and there's someone needs to say something and no one's getting up. It's very easy for you to just stand up and say, raise your hand and say, you know, we shouldn't be doing this, or we should be doing this, or we should be doing that. Offer a solution. And that's basically what I do.
Right.
I'm a solutionary, like you said. I think that's a great term.
Yes, right. So that's so important to evolve beyond you know, revolution, fighting, and to being a solutionary. Now, tell me, what do you do when you're in the midst of a situation where voices are raising and people are starting to combat rather than rise to a higher level?
Well, sometimes I will tap on the corner. I'll tap on the corner of a chair. I'll stand up and I'll say, you know what? It looks like we have sides here, but there are no sides. The earth is round. And then I hold up a certificate of appreciation, which I like to give to everyone. I don't know, can you see that?
Yes, we can see it, yep.
All right, well, I've handed probably 10 or 15,000 of these certificates out because usually when I go somewhere, like if I go to Washington to lobby, I'm there for like 3 or 4 days, I'll bring 1 or 2 changes of outfits, but I'll always wear the same thing every day with a hat. So I'm the lady in the blue dress and hat. And my suitcase is filled with my reports that I have with a beautiful picture on the front. They all like it. Some little thing. And then I have my certificates of appreciation, small ones, larger ones. So when I walk in the door of anyone, a senator, a newspaper man, anywhere I'm going to meet, I bring my certificates with me and I give the smaller ones to the secretary. And I walk in and I say, oh, hi, Mary. I was talking to you on the phone. And she goes, oh, Beth, you're here for your appointment. I said, yes. And then I say, I want to give you a certificate of appreciation. I say, how do you spell your name? And I take out my gold pen and I write their name in gold and I give it to them. And then I do the same with everyone. And I go, everyone in the whole office has to have one, even the janitor. And then of course I give the senator or congressman a nice bigger one that's hand painted with his name in gold. A lot of times I'll go back and lobby them and they'll have it on the wall. It's really great. And it does help break down barriers because people go, wow, thank you. And they forget about what they were arguing about.
Good
It's
for
a
you.
little technique I'm
Good for
sharing
you.
with you.
It reminds me of my dad when I was growing up, actually even before I was born. He began to give out these little turtles of happiness. He had these little toy rubber turtles. I don't think I have one right here, but anyway, and he would buy them by the gross, 12 dozen. And he would give them out to the secretaries and the other people, and he'd tell little stories with them. You know, sometimes you're scared and you draw back in your shell, but then, you know, and then tell little stories about the sun shines and you come out of your shell. And you know,
Great.
it's a great tool to, like you have a tool that I think the key thing is taking the focus off what are we disagreeing with and putting it on something that's fun that we all want to do together, which is kind of, do you see that as kind of the key to creating what Gary called the people-powered planet?
I do. Basically what it does is it goes from them being in charge and people angry about what they're going to do or whatever it is, to changing the playing field. So then all of a sudden it becomes my playing field. Then they're talking about my certificate, or like with the trees. See here's a little heart. Let me see, can you see it? Yeah, there it is. All right, this is what I give to people, a small one, and it's gold on the back. And then I do the larger ones for the trees. So that changes the playing field, because no longer are people angry going, look, they're going to cut the trees down. How terrible. Maybe they put red X's spray painted on the trees or something. And I've changed the playing field to look how great. We're saving the trees. Look, the heart. We love the trees. So I just go in and I just turn everything around from where they want us to react to how I want to act. I'm an activist.
I remember there was a time where Israel was about to go to war with Iran, and some Israelis began to put out a campaign, "We love you, Iran. We love the Iranians." And it was all over the internet and other places, "We love Iranians." And, you know, what happened is when they said, "We love Iranians," suddenly it diffused the fight energy, just like you said, it changed the playing field. That seems like the model you're talking about, yes?
Yes, it is. And, you know, talking about when I met Gary back in '87, I actually was one of the World Peace Envoys. Sushart Kosol Kittiwong kind of anointed me. He was the World Peace Envoy, and he said, "You're the World Peace Envoy." I go, "I can't be. I'll be a World Peace Envoy. You're the World Peace Envoy." But I've been the World Peace Envoy to the United Nations since 1987, and working to stop nuclear activity in the Nuclear Disarmament Committee that we formed back then. And now I'm seeing that the biggest problem in the world that needs to be solved could be easy to solve. And that is, like, for example, the canisters at San Onofre, which are thin-walled canisters, which are very dangerous, and they're holding a lot of radioactivity. They need to be addressed, but in a solution way, not just addressed in a report. So I think if we can get a lot of people to join together on that issue, and if we can solve that problem, which is like worldwide nuclear problem, those people, they just need to turn around. They just need to change the playing field, and they need to, instead of writing reports about it, they need to actually listen to people like me and people like the people who are working really hard to protect the environment and to save our lives, basically. We all need to join together. So I call for that. Mm-hmm. And here's my truce flag. This truce flag I pull up when people are fighting. And I like to say, you know what? There are no sides. Here's the truce flag. Let's work it out. Because they were doing that. People have done that for thousands of years. The truce flag flies. And here, look, I have a whole bundle of them. I have many, many bundles that I've made. And someday I'd like to go to the United Nations and give them to everyone. I already have the envelopes written with the country's name in gold ink. And I'd like to walk in and I'd like to say, please open up your envelope and pull out the little chopstick and the little white flag. Pull it out and hold it up in the air. And I will call all the newspapers and tell them about it. And what's going to happen is the newspapers will say, truce, the United Nations calls for a truce. Every country. That's my goal. Why not?
Yeah. Well, and the UN has actually called for like truces for part of the time, or the Secretary General called for during this whole COVID crisis to have a temporary truce on war. So it's not so far off, and I hope your vision comes true. And you know, a lot of people will react and they'll say, "Isn't that doesn't that mean you're weak? You're surrendering?" How do you answer that?
Okay, first comes the fighting. Then the solution is the truce. Then there's an armistice. Then after the armistice, there's a I forget what it's called, but they join together and they make friends. So
Right.
the truce is only the first step, but so it's not really that big of a deal for people to pull up a truce flag or anything, because you know it is the first step. But I always say everything starts with the first step. That's why I say, just you can do it. You can do it, Arthur. You can do it. Everyone that's watching this, you can do it. You know, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm just an ordinary person. Back in the 40s, I went to Germany as part of the Army of Occupation, and I was a dependent, and I went over on the Queen Elizabeth, which was like Army occupied. They took over, and it was kind of like a soldier ship. There were thousands of us, women and children on the ship. We went over, and I made friends with the people on the ship for various reasons of actions that I did take. And my mother made friends with the general's wife, so of the little camp that we were at. So I got to do my homework in the general's office because he had a nice little place with a little cupola. And so when I came home, and I think I was 9 years old then. And so I did my homework, and I got to listen to all the top level. It was an Army intelligence camp. And I got to listen to all the top level of all the generals and everything, because they thought I was just some little girl that was doing her homework. But I was kind of listening in too, of course. So they had a couple of problems, which I solved basically. And so when Eisenhower, five-star General Eisenhower, came to Frankfurt, Germany, and there were thousands and thousands of people, and there was marching, and there were everything, you know, it was a big deal. I got to sit with the generals in the front row. Now, Eisenhower came after the thing to do a meet and greet with all the generals and to have their picture taken with them. So when it came to me, the general next to me, who was the base commander, he said, Eisenhower said, "Is this the little girl you were telling me about?" And he said, "Yes." Eisenhower took me by the hand, and we left that seat and went over to a little bench where we sat. He said, "How do you know all these things?" I said, "Well, I'm wearing civilian clothes and I'm a child. So I play in Germany after school, and I get to meet all the Germans. I spend the night with some of them and hear what their parents are saying and everything." He says, "Well, what can you do? What would you suggest that I do?" And I said, "Well, first of all, the military has to wear Army uniforms with guns 24/7. And Germans actually are happy that the Americans are here because the Nazis were worse. So if, when their time was off, if they could wear civilian clothes, I think that would make a nicer, friendlier atmosphere." He goes, "Oh, and what else would you do?" And I said, "Well, we had to walk around rubble in the sidewalk and the streets in order to get to our apartment in Frankfurt. And so I think that if the military did some actions like cleaning up the streets and planting flowers or something to make it more beautiful, I think that would change. I didn't say this, but change the playing field, basically, is what I meant. Within 2 weeks, that was done. And the Army of Deoccupation was started, because no longer was it them and us, but it was the military there helping the Germans, not, with the guns and everything. So that.
Wow. And so really what we're talking about with your little white flag is not weakness, that's power.
All right. Well, I'm very powerful because you know why? Because I just exclaim that I am. I'm really not that powerful, but when I stand up and I need to make a difference, I have that stance and I say, I want you to listen to me now. And I'm silent and they do. Also, you got to know when to stop talking. My girlfriend and I, when we went to Washington, one of our key points was leave them when their heads are nodding. In other words, it doesn't matter what we're agreeing on. When I'm lobbying with someone, even it's like, oh, my daughter went to Pepperdine. Oh, my daughter went to Pepperdine too. Just any old thing. Then we leave because, first of all, we're not making them go, gosh, when are these girls going to leave? We leave before that, and we leave them laughing or happy. So that makes a big difference when we're trying to show them and convince them something that obviously I'm volunteering. I'm not getting paid to do that. So I tell them, you know, I'm not getting paid, so I'm doing this because I believe in it. And that's basically been my volunteerism.
Well, that's a powerful lesson for me and for all of us, is to leave when they're smiling and not keep at it, because quit while you're ahead has been said. But
yeah,
really,
exactly.
That's a great lesson, because you leave a good feeling in their head, and you open doors for future relationships. So that's a powerful lesson. Well, you were just such an amazing kid and an amazing person, filled with creativity and filled definitely with the kind of spirit of joy and of being out front. No, you know, here you are, a little kid. You know what you can tell. You know what you can tell the generals what to do, not bossing them around, but just because of the power of the light within you. So it's very inspiring having you here on our show. What's some other advice you can give us as we all are moving through life with our causes and concerns for the world?
Well, I guess my advice is to be trustworthy. That is my first bit of advice, because when you're telling the truth, like most of the lobbyists say in Washington, most of the senators and congressmen and even the president, they hear what people are being paid to tell them, and then the people around them, a lot of them are yes men, because they're afraid to say, you know, Mr. President or whoever, you shouldn't do this or you should do that. I remember one time when I met President Clinton at the law school, paralegal school that I was attending. Actually, I was the student body president, so I got to stand in the front row. And I gave him one of my national energy efficiency policies. And I saw him hand it off. Okay, another point is, like, always bring 2 or 3 hearts, always bring 2 or 3 certificates, and if you have a document, always bring 2 of those. So I saw him hand it off to his aide. I go, Mr. President, wait a minute. And he looked, what, you know? And I said, no, I want you to read this on the plane. And so I handed him another copy. He took it and he put it in his inside pocket. He folded it up, put it in his inside pocket, tapped his chest and said, I will read it on the plane. And of course, I got a really beautiful letter from him saying how great I was and all this stuff. But I wanted to really meet with him. So the other point, a bit of advice that I can say is, it's all about the appointment. It's all about the meeting, whether it's a phone meeting, a Zoom meeting, in-person meeting, because without that connection, you know, then you're just, okay, goodbye. I heard what you said. Okay, next. No, it's not about next with me. It's about listen to what I have to say. Let's communicate and let's see if we can figure it out and solve that problem, because I'm here to help. I'm here to help everybody watching and listening to this podcast. So, you know, I'm sure that Arthur will put my Gmail address or whatever up, and I welcome any questions that anybody has, and I would love to help.
How did you write the National Ocean Protection Act in your kitchen?
Okay. Now, this is really funny, because I had attended, I saw a little tiny article on page like 27 in a newspaper about the fact that they were going to hold offshore oil hearings for the Mendocino coast when I was up in Mendocino. So I thought, oh, I should go to that. And I went to that, and there weren't that many people attending. And so when they asked for questions, I didn't know what to say, but no one stood up, so I stood up. So that kind of started my interest in stopping offshore oil rigs off of the California coast. Then when I went to Washington, one time I lobbied a senator, and she said, from Kansas, she said, why should I vote for California coast? We don't have an ocean in Kansas. I said to her, I said, you know, you're right. You're 100% right. You shouldn't vote for it because you don't have an ocean in Kansas. The next year I went back because I persevere also. So I went back to Washington with this little flyer that I made. And I went back and met with her, and I showed her the flyer. And I said, I gave her the flyer, and she looked at it in amazement. It said, save the Kansas coast. And then I said, actually, the photograph that you see on this flyer is in California, but we believe that the coast and the ocean belongs to all Americans. Well, she said, you have my vote. And so I just turned the playing field again. I told her, yeah, you're right. And then I agree. It's always nice to agree with them whenever you can. So whatever point you can agree with someone, agree with them. And then I brought a solution, which was, there is a Kansas coast. There is and then inside it said, you know, there's a New Hampshire coast, there's this, there's that. And so she understood what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is, it's the American coast. It's the national coast. It's the coast of this continent, is what I was trying to say to her. And we do have to protect all of the world, and that includes the ocean. So that's how I started writing the National Energy Efficiency Policy, because they were all about oil. And they go, well, we don't have a national policy. They didn't even have a national energy policy at that point in the 80s. I said, well, I'm writing one, but mine's going to be energy efficiency. So that's how it happened. And I made the presentation to the Department of Interior Minerals Management Service in 1988.
And what happened from there when you made the presentation?
Well, then you know, what happened? I think that a lot of things happened. Number one, we stopped offshore oil. And then when I wrote the National Energy Efficiency Policy, then people listened. People listened. And then here's a book that I wrote when I went to Washington the first time. Can you see it?
No, hold up a little bit higher. There it is. Okay, Miss Leeds goes to Washington. All right.
Yeah, that's one of my little stories. It's on Amazon. All you have to do is look up Beth Leeds books, Amazon, and you can see the 4 little books that I've written.
Oh, I understand you also wrote one to inspire other children in kind of your footsteps, seeing the child in them as a powerful person as well. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I actually in Hilo, I had a cute little, here, I'll show it to you. Can you see that?
Yes.
This is my Little Miss Radish and Mr. Sunflower kids coloring book, but I have a whole little booklet, and I have a story. I had a television show on the Big Island in Hawaii because my daughter had planted a garden, and I looked out the window and I saw the sunflower, and it was nodding, you know, the wind, and it was nodding to me. And so I went out and I saw a little radish planted right next to the sunflower, and it looked like the sunflower was petting the radish's head with its leaves because it was very windy. So I just started writing the story, and then I have Mr. Green Jeans because green beans grow in twos, so it looked like little green jeans, and little Miss Radish put her head on top and walked around the garden. And then I had Cloud, the white horse, that I airbrushed, and that's part of the story. And I wrote a movie about that, and I wrote several plays. You know, fun. I like to do stuff, and I like to share it with people.
So that book is available on Amazon if people want to order it for their children, right?
Well,
The coloring
you'd
book?
have to email me and I'd have to send it to you.
Oh, okay,
It's
so
not
she
on
put
Amazon yet.
she put it in the chat. Well, now
Yeah.
tell us about that painting behind you.
Oh, well, I first started painting big Lahala mats, and it was very unusual because they're actually rugs on a floor, and I was actually painting a painting on top of it, and I spilled brown paint all over it, and so I looked down at the rug and I go, oh, I can paint these, and so I started painting large format either 3x4 or 6x8 Lahala mats and paintings of local Hawaiian scenes. And the Lahala mats are all made from Lahala. My daughter actually made a hat. She went and collected the Lahala. So Lahala is a very special and sacred thing in Hawaii. Now I'm kind of doing beach mats, you know, those
Wow.
woven beach mats, and I'm painting those in Laguna of the Lifeguard Tower and various things. So that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful painting. And so if people want to see more of your art, is there any way they can see that?
BethLeeds.com. But my email is a way that I can send people pictures and everything, because I don't have everything up on BethLeeds.com. But you can look at it, and it has a lot of stuff on it.
Well, good. So I'm going to throw it open to questions now. So Melanie, take it away.
Wow. Okay, Beth, you are such a phenomenal, dynamic go-getter. You're just like, energy in here is like, because people need to see that how good it feels to do something. I mean, a lot of people like, we should get this, no, and they don't do it. They don't do it. Just, you know, like you say, do it. Just, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So thank you for that. Beth, you are amazing. Look at what all you've accomplished, but that doesn't matter. You're still doing more and more and more because it's so much fun. It's so much fun to get stuff done, really. And
it is.
Your techniques are great tips for all of us.
Thank you.
They're simple tips that make a difference, because a lot of us may have causes and things we want to get done. And how do you approach a person? How do you ask? I mean, how do you work it so that person will actually listen to you? You know, oh no, I want you to read it on the plane, and then it's obligated to stick it in his pocket. Amazing stuff. That is amazing stuff, and very important skills to have. And I think the most important thing is the fact that you bring this joy, this happiness to people, where, and appreciation, just the fact that people are getting a certificate that someone recognizes them and says, hey, you are wonderful, you are a great person. And that, to me, we need more of that in the world. We need more joy. Joy is what moves things. I mean, people,
it is.
If people are too frightened, oh, I can't, there's nothing I can do. As only one person, or oh my gosh, if I do something, I might get in trouble, or something bad might happen. All that stuff stops people from doing great things that will help the future generations. And we need that so bad. Anyway, I had to say that. Thank you.
You're so right. It's all about future generations, and really, it's about everyone, because we're all here right now. I don't care if you're 2 years old or if you're 80, like I'm almost 80. It doesn't matter how old you are, because there's no reason to wait. A lot of times when I'm at a meeting and some little child will get up and say, I have something to say, and that really makes the difference. That makes the difference. The children, because when they don't get up and stand up and talk that much, and so when they do, people do listen. So, and also, empowering people, like go outside, raise your hands up, twirl around, look up at the sky. We need to be outside during this time, especially. We need to take care of our home. We need to get the toxics out of our home. We need to get the toxics out of our mind as well. And that is, write a poem, draw a picture. It doesn't matter if it's not good, crumple it up. Just do something. Don't just watch television. Think for yourself, because we all have a story. We all have a story, every one of us. And just be proud of your story and just make your story better now.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Don't wait. Wait.
No,
Today is the
no
day.
waiting.
Today is the day. Do it, do it, do it. Okay. So we do have questions and we want to go first to Michael Walsh. Michael, go ahead.
Hi, Beth. It's so nice to see you here.
Hi, Michael.
Thank you for all your activism. I'm inspired as an activist myself. So
right.
my question, I have two, if I have quick time for a second one. The first one is about my concern that you have with San Onofre being right on the ocean. I've driven by it on the highway and seen it, and it's really great news to hear it being decommissioned, but I heard that the casks are way too thin. They should be 4 or 5 inches thick, not ½ inch or 1 inch thick. And, you know, what's the prospect if that gets hit by an earthquake right there? I mean, what kind of radiation release are we looking at?
Well, that's why fingers are crossed, number one. But the real point is that we need to take action. They need to be repackaged into thick wall containers. Yeah, they're thin wall. They're like 5/8 of an inch. They're like huge, and we need to address that problem. But we are addressing. You drive by, you see, you're an activist. But we need to write letters, we need to call, we need to write a declaration. I have an idea for a declaration that I thought would be really great. And that is to say, take shelf paper and write what you want on the top in bold ink, and then have people sign it and keep unrolling it and have people sign it. And then you have this long paper with signatures instead of just 8.5 by 11 petitions. And then when you run out of room, get another roll and do that. And pretty soon it could be, you know, a mile long. And San Onofre, to me, because I live in Laguna Beach, I believe act locally, impact globally or nationally. So we need to, I need to meet with the NRC, myself, and I need to have a meeting with them where they will listen to me. And then you have a meeting and have them listen to you. In other words, if people want to support me right now, I would be more than happy to meet with the head of the National NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And I would be happy to meet with Biden. I would be happy to meet with anyone. And I can meet with them and I can convince them because it's a no-brainer. But they just need to, we need to take away the them and us. There are no sides. It is not about us.
It's not only the thickness of the container walls, but it's actually, that shouldn't be stored on that site at all. It needs to be moved off-site and moved inland to be out of earthquake zone danger completely. So if I have time, quick second question. I heard you talk about energy efficiency. So we all know what happened in Texas with the whole grid. And I was in Austin for 25 years where I went to school. And I was in energy, solar, renewable field, going to all the meetings for a long time. And look what Texas has done. They isolated themselves and closed off their grid to other states. So they weren't able to bring power in from other states. And so do you have any thoughts on that as far as, you know, this idea of, you know, deregulate, let them do whatever they want. And they didn't put in you know, we had a storm there, a cold snap. I was there 5 years ago and the same thing happened. We lost, not as bad, of course, but we lost power because the natural gas plants couldn't handle the cold. So, you know, it happened and they didn't go and retrofit them to withstand the cold temperatures.
Right. So basically the fact is that they're not doing their job. Their job is to protect us, but they're not doing their job. They're doing the job of the gas company, the corporations, the electric company, or whatever, the nuclear lobbyists, the nuclear industry. I mean, we have to really get on this because they're not doing their job and they're getting paid quite a lot of money. So they need to change. We need to change the playing field for those people into maybe a little bit of our playing field where we have the solutions, because they're not looking for the solutions. They're looking to keep the corporations in power so they can make more money. They have enough money. They're you know, another trillion, 2 trillion, whatever it is, they have enough money. But we need to take action now. And I think that the canisters at San Onofre probably are the #1 issue in the world. Because if we can get a solution in San Onofre, then that can be a pilot project for the rest of the country and the rest of the world. And I know Kayleen Walker wants to say something, and she and I have been working together. So would it be possible for her to speak now?
Sure, Kayleen can go, and then Mike Caruso, if that's okay, you would go after. So
she has a lot of the documentation. She's been working, and I'm just assisting her. She and Donna Gilmore are the brilliance behind solutions at San Onofre.
I met Beth on Facebook because she had made a comment about saving the canyon, about starting the Great Walk, where 10,000 people marched down the canyon to protect the canyon from all the development. And I said, oh gosh, I live right on the other side of the hill. Thank you so much for doing that. She goes, oh, you're welcome. Let's have lunch. Okay, you know. And so then I didn't get back to her. And then a week later she says, hey, you know, let's still get together. And so I said, okay. And then I've been working on the San Onofre issue for like 4 years, you know, doing a lot of deep research on it and everything. And most people, when I speak to them about the nuclear waste problem, they kind of shy away, or they're, you know, there's like a, you know, resistance. It's a pretty repulsive topic, but not Beth. Like, she's going like, tell me more. You know, we need to do something. This is important. And she dove right in, and she's like been my right arm, you know, buddy on this. You know, we delivered lemons to the NRC when they came to town, because we're calling the system a lemon, because if it were a car, it would be considered a lemon. It needs to be replaced. So anyway, Beth has been super fun and super supportive and unfazed by the magnitude of the challenge. And just as far as the canister situation goes, they're basically, the NRC is basically doing the bidding of the industry, and the NRC is not really regulating for safety. They're regulating for industry profits, and that's really what we're up against, is the moneyed interests. And so I'm still working on that. If you want any information on it, we have a petition. It's a lemon petition. We drew a picture. We took a picture of the storage system. We dropped lemons into it, you know, showing that it's a system. So if you go to sanonofresafety.org, you can find out everything you ever wanted to know about nuclear waste.
Wonderful. Thank you. And if you want to put that in the chat, that would be great, Kayleen.
Sure.
And anything else to say about San Onofre, Beth, before we go to Mike?
Well, I'd like to say that it's a numbers game with them. Changing the playing field gives us power. So we need to stand up and look big. And one of the great things is to have more people, more calls. One time, in order to stop offshore oil, I got 300 people to call in to one attorney one time who was on the fence. Should I do an appeal or not? We got him to do the appeal. So making phone calls is very, very important, I think.
Yeah, people power. That's what it takes. Just one, you know, many hands.
Just mention the canisters at San Onofre.
Canisters at San Onofre.
The canisters at San Onofre. We gotta stop it right now.
Perfect. Do your part and make a difference, and we can all do this together. So thank you for that, Beth. Yes, and now Mike Caruso.
Yay, Mike. Mike.
As I was saying, it's just a pleasure to be on this Zoom call with you.
Oh, it is.
I am with an organization called Rotary International.
Oh, great.
And about 10 years ago, actually in 2011, we started a program called Rotary Peace Builder Clubs. And it is to learn more about Rotary's history and peace, and to do peace projects, peace polls, peace literacy, and whatnot. So we started in 2011, and today we have close to 300 Rotary clubs who have opted to be peace builder clubs.
Wow.
And about a half hour before this meeting began, I received an email inviting me to speak to the English-speaking Rotary Club of St. Petersburg, Russia in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And they have a goal of starting about 5 peace builder clubs in the St. Petersburg and Moscow areas. And I would like to know if you have some suggestions for me to mention while talking to this club.
I do. First of all, I just spoke with the president of the Laguna Beach Rotary Club yesterday, Angela, inviting her to participate in this Zoom, and she'll probably look at it later if she's not on now. Okay, my suggestions. First of all, I like to speak in the language that where I'm visiting. So I would like for you to learn a couple of things like Dobre utro, tovarищ. That is kind of a hello, my friend, or something. Or maybe it isn't. I don't know, but that's what I say, and they all go, wow. So when you first approach them, have your hello, I'm happy to be here. Basically, that's all you need to know. And then you can know also, I'm very interested in what you're saying. And then you can also say, goodbye, and I'm happy that we got to meet. Maybe those 3 sentences would be good for you to transliterate. And then what about making that a sister city to your city, your Rotary city? That might be nice. And then of course, how about giving them certificates of appreciation? Make a whole bunch of them, and I cut them out. I'll send it to you. See, I print them kind of like 2 on a page. This is the largest one that I make, 2 on a page, because a 1 on a page is a little too big. So then the smaller ones are, you know, for whoever's with the dignitary that you're talking with. And then of course I have tiny little business card size that I just hand out, and just go to at one of your Rotary meetings, you can go and have everyone cut them all out, and you can print whatever you want them to say. Bring a gold pen, and round the corner, you won't believe the difference that makes when they get something personal in gold ink, and you could write it in Russian.
Let me jump in a second. Someone from the Rotary in Ukraine just joined us, Jean. We will have a replay for you, but welcome. We had just been mentioning Rotary.
Welcome.
We just wanted to welcome you. This is special. Do you have a word or anything you'd like to share with us?
Yes, thank you very much. I am very grateful for this meeting.
You've actually turned this Zoom into a worldwide Zoom. It's really wonderful. Ukraine is a very special place, and we hold it in our hearts. And we hope to connect with you again, and so we can talk. And I will learn a little bit of your language now. Nice to meet you.
Well, it's very nice. Thank you. I am very happy. And because today Ukraine is calling on the United Nations, it was yesterday, to carry out an environmental damage assessment in eastern Ukraine, because the drinking water starts being radioactive. And it is radioactive because about 40 years ago, there was a nuclear tests in eastern Ukraine. And to prevent the water to being radioactive, they installed hydraulic pumps But in 2018, the separatists decided to disconnect those pumps. Those pumps are preventing the water to enter the radioactive area. And should the drinking water be radioactive, it would contaminate the rivers, the seas in Ukraine and abroad. Because if there is a point of no return, so Chernobyl was nothing in comparison, or what happened in Japan, also nothing. It would be a horrible thing. And it happened, the pump were disconnected exactly 3 years ago. And only today, the representative of the Ukraine in the UN has asked the General Assembly to look into that. So I hope it's not too late, but it's horrible.
Well, maybe I can help, and maybe we can get in touch with Aaron Brockovich, who does a lot of work with waters. But you know, I would definitely like to put my hand in that, being with the United Nations as well. And I believe that that's a very, very important thing. We have to take care of that, and I will help. I will help you.
Oh, thank you. I will send you the information.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, and do
Thanks,
you pronounce it Jean, or do we say John? How do you pronounce your name?
Jean. Jean, it's French.
That's
I
right.
was born in France.
Oh.
Basically, I am German.
Enchanté, Jean.
Thank you for taking. Yeah, thank you for taking this crazy situation on. That's insane.
It is absolutely crazy. And
I'm proud of you.
As history shows, people start being active when the child has fallen in the river, or when the catastrophe has happened. Only after that, people start saying about why didn't we do anything? And you know, the OSCE and the EU and all those organizations do know about this catastrophe, but nobody is doing anything about it. It is
you brought attention to it, and so on this podcast, and there's quite a lot of people that will be reviewing the information that you're giving us. So thank you for the heads up. We need to stop things from happening. Prevention is the best cure.
Yes.
Prevention is the best cure.
Yes. And I'm going to put my email down in the chat, so anybody wants to connect with John or Beth and Mrs.
Right.
And also, Jean, we need to keep a healthy immune system as well, because we need to up our immune system, because there's a lot of things that are happening in the world now, and we need to make our bodies stronger. And I'm a health coach, and I can help with that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I would really appreciate. I have started with vitamin D, vitamin C, and with zinc.
Yes.
Zinc, yes, and also get plenty of rest. There's a lot of studies about lack of sleep. Everyone needs 7 to 9 hours.
And organic food is very important, because if it's not organic, it's sprayed with poison from the chemical companies. So when we eat organic food, we eat less food, and we eat better, and we protect our body that way as well.
That's all important.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. So, Jean, if you could stay on after, maybe we can talk.
I would.
Okay. Now, I just want to make sure that we say a quick hello to, we have David Gallup on the call. He is with the World Service Authority.
Wow.
We know about David, worked many, many years with Gary, and we just want David to say a quick hello. Hello, David Gallup.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to tell Beth that we're trying to restart the World Citizen Party. In fact, since you were running with Gary Davis many years ago as his running mate, there's a fellow in England who's trying to run for, I think, a local city council under the World Citizen Party platform. So I've gone into our old archives to find the party platform and everything. So anyway, if you're interested, let me know.
I'd love to run as president.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be great.
And I have a lot of information. I'll look for it. I have the platform and different things like that. And I'm really, the World Parliament was my dream come true when I went to Miami, and I met so many people, and I have a lot of their names as well. And I know that we can do it, and we have to do it. We have to do it because we need the platform, number one, and we can start running right now.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And I do want to officially end the meeting. I really appreciate everyone being part of our People Powered Planet podcast, talking about the ways we as people can begin to have the power to change our world. And Beth, you're a wonderful example of that. We've been very honored to have you. And if you have one short last word, what's the last thought you'd like to leave us all with?
The last word would be aloha. Aloha.
Thank you for joining us on the People Powered Planet podcast. Next week, we'll have our club social. So join us next week and every week for solutionaries on how we build a better world together.
World citizen, lift up your voices. Oh, you know we got something to say. All we need is the same directions, heading in one way.